Hey guys, so this is part 2 to me showcasing the backyard map, because you may have noticed that we did not showcase every single map, and we did not. So that's why I'm doing this second part to showcase the rest of the map. Just like the first part, you will love this indeed. So with that said, let's get into it. Alright, let's start off with the first one that we did not do in the first part, and that is the Halloween Party 2017. So anyway, you may first of all notice the sky. It has been turned into a thundercloud and lightning. Now this was mainly due to the fact that on one of the days that the event was going on, it was a complete rainstorm all day, specifically October 23rd. And that's why I did that. So at the tree next to the lanai, there was a jar, a jack-o'-lantern, and a candle with 2 black houses on it. At the dirt area, there was a sign that said trick or treat, and there were 2 jack-o'-lantern lights, which never lighted up during the event, sadly. At the field, there were 2 pumpkins, and there was this green line. Technically, I would love to call it slime because, well, it was green after all, but it was just a green line. But still really cool in a way. At the time machine, there was a sign that said welcome, and there were 3 jack-o'-lanterns all on top of each other. At the pump house, there were 2 pumpkins, and I actually mean they were actually real pumpkins, were actually placed at the pump house. Now this was done just to celebrate Halloween, the exact day of Halloween, and they actually turned out pretty great. However, as you can see, that they're actually not there. This is because I forgot to draw them. And at the tree next to the garden, there is a jack-o'-lantern being lit up by light bulbs, which was also a really cool concept. Honestly, one of my favorites. And finally, at the top of the pump house, there were, Halloween garland with a few, jack-o'-lanterns on them. The chairs being tipped over to give a little bit of a scary theme. And a plastic, pumpkin on top, just because I felt like, and it was really cool to have. This event was definitely a success. Alright, moving on. Next up, the winter party, which you guys should all know, because I obviously made a video on. So first of all, at the dirt area, there was a penguin, a snowflake, well, just a plastic one, but it almost felt like a glass one. But in reality, it was really plastic. Then we had some icicles, and then there was a free item, the mitten. No, wait a second. These aren't mittens. They're gloves. Why did I say mittens in that video back then, when they're really gloves? Silly me back then, when I was making that. And finally, a rug that went around the area. Next up, at the field, there was this little bin that said cold drink. Cold drinks. Sorry about that. Assuming the camera will focus, you can actually see that. But anyway, next up, there was a penguin right there. Then there was this little ice thing covering the wall. And finally, some icicle. Next up, at the tree next to the garden, there was a penguin, another plastic snowflake, and some icicle. And finally, at the top of the pump house, there was a free item, a hat. There were some icicles, a penguin, and an exact glass snowflake. Forgot to mention there was also one at the field. I just forgot to draw that one. Did you guys ever watch the episode for this event? If you have not, definitely go watch it because it was definitely a success. Just like Halloween. Well, not as successful as Halloween. Halloween was just a little better. Anyway, next up is the Christmas party. Now this was the final event of 2017. One cool difference was the sky. It was completely nighttime due to the fact that it was mostly nighttime during the event. First up, even though this right here was never on top during the event, I just added it for fun. But then the rest were completely at the event. First of all, if you don't remember, there was golden garland going all over the tree. Well, not the back of it, just like over like the front and side. Then we had 4 icicles going around the tree, making it very holiday festive. No, seriously, it was really holiday festive. Next up, at the dirt area. Now, even though these little lights here were never here on the tree, I just added it for fun. But anyway, the real decorations here were these tree ornaments going there and there. Next up were these cans which were made, I don't know, probably around 100 years ago. I have absolutely no idea. Next up is the field. Now there is a sleigh along with some bells right here and a penguin wearing a Santa hat. Next up, the time machine. Again, even though that these lights here were not here during the event, again, they're still out there for fun. But in all seriousness, the real decorations were these two penguins and the stocking. Now, the pump house. You may notice that there actually are decorations. Now, when I did the video for the whole Christmas party walkthrough, this was not here. This is mainly due to the fact that I actually decorated this room for Christmas. Exactly Christmas Day. You guys just never saw it because I never made a backyard video on Christmas. So I completely decorated this room for that exact one day, Christmas. You guys just never saw it because I never filmed a backyard video on that day again. But in all reality, there were decorations here on Christmas, which were really neat. Alright, next up, we have some crafted trees, which were, again, probably made around 100 years ago. And again, the lights up top, again, for fun. And the wreath, which was in the middle. Nice place for it. And finally, the top of the pump house. Now, honestly, I think this room actually had the most decorations out of all. Because, one, there were stockings on both of the chairs, and there was garland going all around the room. Oh, and some candy canes as well. Hold on, let me get out of here and see if you can actually see that. Can you see that? But there are candy canes right there and right there. Oh, there was also one at the bottom of the room. I just didn't draw it there because that would take up too much space. All in all, this room was definitely the most decorative room. The other most decorative room is the tree next to the lanai, because it really had a lot of decoration. This event was a success. Exactly the success as Halloween. 10 out of 10. Alright, the next one, which was the color party mini event. But I still really call it an event. This was the first ever event of 2018. And if you haven't watched the video for it, I really recommend you go watch it because it actually does feature a few things. So anyway, the first place is the dirt area, and it was decorated for blue with a cool free item with it. The field was the color red, again with another free item with it. And the final area was the tree next to the garden with the color green, again with another free item with it. Then all the other rooms, except for the free, were not decorated. Honestly, I think the dirt area is honestly my favorite decoration out of all. Still, really good event. Alright, the next one. And that is the second backyard game. So to start off, at the tree next to the lanai, there was a starting line. Now, yeah, this was actually here during the event, which I thought was really cool. Then there is this path that goes all the way to the shed and finishes there. Then at the field, there was a soccer field. I really wish I actually did make an actual soccer field, but it would not fit. But it was still really cool how I made them. Honestly, like I said before, both backyard games were absolutely excellent. Can't wait to make more of those. Alright, next up, 7 Days of Fun 2. Yes, because there was a second 7 Days of Fun in February. So to start off, February 1st at the top of the pump house were the water gun. Day 2 at the tree next to the garden was the frisbee. Day 3 at the pump house was the glorious hose. Honestly, one of my most favorite activities of all. And again, because we do not have the tree there, again, also because almost all of these, like all of these, do not have the tree in them, I do not have day 4. Day 5, however, honestly, there were noodles all over the time machine. Honestly, this one was honestly my favorite activity out of all. Best one I can ever come up with. Alright, at the field, there were the rings, which were still a really cool concept. However, the only thing I actually forgot was that February 6th was actually supposed to go on the second log. My mistake. And finally, the dirt area. The main purpose of day 7 was to get the whole dirt area wet. However, it was in the dark, so you couldn't really see it as much. But they still had the band and a little water effect going with it. This event was still really cool to do. I can't wait to do next year's. Alright, let's do the next one. Whoa! Sorry about that. The recording almost stopped. Thank the Lord it did it. Because I would have to do this all over again. And I would not be happy. Anyway, let's do the Valentine's Day party 2018. Which was also a really cool event. It didn't last as long, but it was still a really cool event. So anyway, to start off, the dirt area. There were only like 4 or 5 hearts in here, but it still does count as decoration. Not as much, but there were still 4 hearts in the field. But then, the time machine probably has the most decorations ever, mainly due to the fact that there was actually a free item here, the heart sign. At the tree next to the garden, there were hearts that actually were on the tree. Now, I cannot believe that they actually stuck to the tree. That was pretty impressive. I didn't even know that can even happen. And finally, the top of the pump house. We actually did make a Valentine's Day project with some of the hearts, and it actually turned out pretty well. And though this event did not last long, it was still a really good event. Also, you may notice that the sun is beaming down on the tree. This was mainly due to the fact that the event was centered at evening. Still really good if you ask me. Next up is one of my most personal favorites, the 200th episode celebration. Just as good as the 100th episode celebration. One of the best parts about the event was that every single room was completely custom and was completely brand new. Let me show you if you cannot remember. So at the dirt area, there were 2 blue things where you could just play ball with them. At the time machine, yeah, even though you can still see the streamers from previous, again, those are just added for fun. But this box right here, you could pick up for water gun. However, we did not actually use them in the episode, sadly. I really still wish I actually did. Then, we had the Frisbee, which we actually did use in the episode. So that was good. Now, I cannot remember if the pump house was actually decorated. I'll have to check. However, you may have noticed that there were actually 2 noodles going up to it. So, kind of counts as decoration. Next up, at the tree next to the garden, there was another Frisbee and a box of the 2 pieces of wood. And finally, one of my most favorites, the top of the pump house. Now, what we did here was put a bunch of noodles there, the 200 episode logo, and made a 200 episode project due to it being the 200th episode. Surprisingly enough, this was one of the only episodes that ever got so many comments. It all started with the CP Reborn team. By the way, I really hope they are actually watching these vids, because it would be really cool to have them see what I've done before I joined them. Another fun fact that, it was daytime during this event. However, when I actually did the actual episode itself, it was completely dark. But however, for most of the event, it was actually daytime. It's pretty surprising there. Honestly, this event was 10 out of 10, the exact same amount of support as the 100th episode. Both events were great. Alright, on to the next one, which is the St. Patrick's Day Party 2018. Now, like the Valentine's Day Party, this one did not last as long. It lasted the exact same amount of days, 5, and there really wasn't much to it. Let me show you why if you do not remember. So first of all, the dirt area. There are shamrocks scattered all over, which were still cool decoration. Not much, but it was still cool. Yep, more shamrocks being scattered all over in the field. However, the time machine actually does give a big amount of difference. First of all, there was a free item. I don't know why it's a shamrock hat, even though the free item during the event was actually the shamrock poster. Well, technically the St. Patrick's Day poster. And then a few more shamrocks being scattered around. And about the streamers, I don't know why I put those there. Honestly, I have absolutely no idea. Alright, next up, the tree next to the garden. Now, as you can see, again, more shamrocks being scattered all over. And finally, the top of the pump house. More shamrocks scattered all over. We actually did make a St. Patrick's Day project, which actually went pretty well. Alright, next up, second to last event in this video, because this is literally going to be one of the last 2 events that I've ever made so far. And that is the Celebration of Spring, which is one of the most recent. If you don't remember what the event was, then let me show you. So, at the dirt area, there was a free item, the watering can. A little fun fact that this actually never made an appearance the whole event, but it added it for fun. Next up was the green noodle, which actually never really moved the whole event, but I still added it there for fun. Next up is the field. Now, as you can see, there is the wagon, which actually did make an appearance during the event, with the soccer ball and frisbee in it. I actually did use them off camera while not recording, and had a lot of fun with it. Next up is the tree next to the garden, which had a sign advertising the new garden because it was brand new at the time. Then the top of the pump house, which had just a few flowers. It actually did have a spring poster. Yep, it was available for free up there. We did not make a project based on this event due to the fact that we didn't really do anything with it. And the final room, this should have actually been first, but the tree next to the lanai. Now, this one had a green noodle going over a picture, which had a flower and the sun. It was still a really cool room. One of the main notices is that it was completely daytime during the whole event. Well, technically, it was really actually supposed to. However, the episode I was showcasing it was at night, but it was still really supposed to be at daytime, which is why it is at daytime. And last but not least, the April Foolster party. The April/Easter event. Yeah, the April Fool/Easter event is the most recent event, and there's no other events that have been past it. Well, this Friday, it'll be Earth Day event, so that'll be cool to see. By the way, I do have construction out. However, if you can look, it is way too dark for me to go out there, so I'll showcase it tomorrow. So anyway, let's showcase. So, the field had a bunch of boxes on it with a sign that said April Fools. There were also a few eggs, which were also planted. Next up at the time machine was a sign that said Happy Easter. Now, this room was completely Easter themed due to the fact that I did not have any more April Fool's decoration. And I wanted one room to be completely Easter themed. And then there were just a few eggs here, just scattering Easter. Then at the pump house, there was a little wacky project that went on here, along with a few eggs, which were still cool. Next up at the tree next to the garden, there were 2 boxes, but 3 eggs in that room. And finally, the final room, the top of the pump house. This had the April Fool's logo, along with the Easter part of it. It also had an Easter basket, 3 eggs, and actually, I think there were no free items being given out in this event, right? No, there wasn't. Yeah, but anyway, there were a few noodles being scattered all over. The chairs were completely tipped over, just like last year. It was really fun. But anyway, that is all the events I have done so far. Let me know in the comments if you want to see this again.